Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Guillaume Drouin. I'm the third generation of Calvados Christian Drouin estate. The company was founded by my grandfather. My subject today for you will be to try to explain how a niche product like Calvados can reach the American market. So just a few figures about what Calvados is. Calvados is 6 million bottles sold worldwide, all producers together. So you see it's a very small category. We do about 14% of the total Calvados exportation value. So we're not that big neither. When you go to the US, well, Calvados is not known or not very well known. It's never a priority for a US distributor. And but it's still, though, quite a valuable product, which is also growing in the bar industry. It's a spirit that the distributors can sell for a good price with good margins, so that's an interest for them. And it's a kind of product that will make the portfolio look different from others. So at the end, I would say, every good distributor is going to need a Calvados. Distributors are going to need niche products like Calvados, even if it's not what they make their money with mostly. So what is a good distributor for a niche product? Well, a good distributor for a product like Calvados should be able to focus on high-end products, specialty products, which require a specific attention. When you come to a market with a product which is completely unknown, one of the key factors of success is to be able to teach people. So you will have to do a lot of training, education, and you need your distributor to help you for that. It's not something you can do just by yourself. The distributor the importer should also have the capacity, to bring in a known category to the market. And to explain his customers what is valuable in your product, what is interesting in your history, what makes your Calvados special. So a good importer, distributor is not only doing logistic for you, but it should also be a brand builder. And that's what we're all looking for, but it's not always easy to find, actually. So I've tried to describe the different possible approach to the market in the US. The easiest is certainly to try to find a national importer. So the national importer is going to tell you, well, I'm going to take your product and I'm going to sell that everywhere in the US. And he's going to show you a list of distributors he works with. He's going to have one distributor in each state. And he's going to promise you, well, that's what I'm going to do. I take your product and I put it in all these states. And it's an easy approach to the market. It's pretty fast to start with, but it's not always 100% efficient, because we'll see that there are quite a few points that are not always going as easy as one could expect. For instance, your access to the market, if you go with a national distributor, is going to be quite limited. This national distributor, he usually doesn't have so much time for you. So you're going to ask him, I want to come and visit my customers. And he's going to tell you, well, perfect, but I can give you 10 days this year because my sales team is too busy. So that's all you can have. So you have to train the market within 10 days. And if we speak about a market like the US, it's very difficult to do that with it. It's just impossible, actually, to do that in such a short time. So they're not going to give you a lot of access to the market. The process of introducing your product to the market is also going to be very long, simply because even if they work in maybe 40 states, your brand is going to start in 5-6 states, and then you're going to grow. You're going to get new states one after the other, and each new state is actually a lot of work. They're going to have to convince the distributor they need your product. They're going to have to send prices, set all the logistics, and actually every time it's a big work for the importer. And so you would expect that you would be in 40 states very quickly, but it's not going to happen like that. It's going to take time and a lot of discussion and a lot of frustration, actually, really, at the end. Most of the national importer now work more and more with the major distributors in the US, like Thousand, well, you know, they just a few of them, and more and more, you know, that's their strategy, and so they work with distributors which are huge, that have a portfolio which is big like that, with the main brands in the market, and so they work is to get a bit of attention from these distributors on their own portfolio. So considering that it's already difficult for them to get attention on their main brand, if you're a product like Calvados, if you're new a product in the market, you will have even more difficulty to get attention from these very big distributors. So it's a real question when you look at what is a good importer for your brand, is to look at what distributor they work with. Do they work with some of the very big distributors that have huge portfolio, or do they work with smaller distributors that have the capacity to pay more attention to a small brand like your brand? A second strategy could actually be to say, well, I don't want to go with a national importer. I'm gonna work with different regional importers, and they're gonna sell in a few states. So, you know, for example, you can have an importer in New York, and he's gonna sell around New York. He's going to sell in Connecticut, in a few states around New York. And you can have another one in California, and you might have the chance to find one in Illinois. And so like this, you're going to have 3 or 4 regional importers with a local distribution. The interest of that strategy is that, well, first, your price on the market is going to be better, because you have one margin less in the process to get your product to the customers. You're going to have a better contact with these distributors, because basically there's not an importer between yourself and the distributor. You speak directly with them, so it's more efficient to organize market visit on the ground, to set a strategy with them, to do all the work which is needed. So that strategy is very interesting, but you're not going to cover all the US with that strategy. You might focus in 10, 12 of the main states, which is, you know, probably already quite a lot, considering that, you know, the high-end spirits are not sold everywhere in the US, but there are some regional areas like Texas, California, New York, Illinois, that are usually the places where most of the very premium spirits are sold. But then, you know, you may think, okay, I wanna go further than that, and so you can combine this strategy with working with some of the retail chains that can be also regional, like GHI, Goody and Goody, or etc. And that you know, you can have your product locally with some distributors, but also work with the retail chains, which is going to have shops in a particular region, and that can work pretty well. But it needs that you have a good understanding of the market and see who is doing what and where, so that at the end your strategy is efficient to cover all the market segment and geography. The next step could be to have your own stock in the US, because when you want to reach a very small distributor in a small state, and you have a niche product, he's going to tell you, well, it's great, but I'm not going to make importation of that. It's too much work. I don't want to keep inventories of your products. It's too costly for me for what I'm going to sell. So then the only solution is to have your own stock somewhere in the US, and you can send to him limited quantities. And then with that strategy, you will cover even more states and go deeper into the market. Having a stock in the US is a cost. You're going to pay for that. You're going to pay a logistical company for making the inventories, for storing the products, for shipping the products, for doing the accountants on all these things. So it's a real cost, which is worse, I think, only when you reach a certain amount of sales. So it's definitely probably not something to do to start with, unless you have very big ambition and a lot of money to invest from the beginning. And then the last suggestions might be, you know, sometime you can create small brands for some small distributors or actors that you will meet in your way, and one is going to tell you, well, I want to have a Calvados, but I already have the agreement here, and so you can have different brands for a different route to the market, different strategies every time, and that's also a way to increase your sales and your global turnover in the market. So yeah, that's what I can tell you from our own experience. We work in the US with actually 2 different distributors. So we have 2 different importers. We have one which is on the East Coast, which is Baron François, and they sell in a few states around New York. And we work with Hoteling, which is normally a national importer, but we have an agreement with them that they don't do New York and they do the rest of the country. And we also have actually 2 other brands, actually even 3 other brands, which are in the market with for some of them a local approach, for some of them a national approach. So yeah, that's how we do.